Abortion and racism are both symptoms of a fundamental human error. The error is thinking that when someone stands in the way of our wants, we can justify getting that person out of our lives. Abortion and racism stem from the same poisonous root, selfishness. When you objectively observe the most spiritual area to which modern people devote themselves, the religions, ask yourself if the basis of modern culture, particularly in religion, is not human self-interest. It is typical of modern sermons that the preacher criticizes people for their selfishness. Good character consists of recognizing the selfishness that inheres in each of us and trying to balance it against the altruism to which we should all aspire. It is a difficult balance to strike, but no definition of goodness can be complete without it. There are no generalizations in American politics that vested selfishness cannot cut through. As selfishness and complaint pervert the mind, so love with its joy clears and sharpens the vision. Star Trek episodes always insisted that humanity is on its bumpy way to what will be a glorious future in the 23rd century, in which we will have left most of our old selfishness, and old hatreds and prejudices, far behind us. My desire for the part of Mammy was not dominated by selfishness, for Hollywood has been good to me and I am grateful. Selfishness is a quality and not necessarily a bad thing. Selfishness is the greatest curse of the human race. I am confident that nobody will accuse me of selfishness if I ask to spend time, while I am still in good health, with my family, my friends, and also with myself. It may be a cold, clammy thing to say, but those that treat friendship the same as any other selfishness seem to get the most out of it. We can pay the ecological debt by changing economic models, and by giving up luxury consumption, setting aside selfishness and individualism, and thinking about the people and the planet Earth. No universal selfishness can bring social good to all. Communism, the effort to give all men what they need and to ask of each the best they can contribute, this is the only way of human life. Running fills the cup that has to pour out for others. Running feeds the soul that has a responsibility to nourish. Running sets the anchor that limits the drift of the day. Running clears the mind that has a myriad of challenges to solve. Running tends to the self so that selfishness can subside. Because racism is not like jealousy or selfishness, it is not a primal urge or a basic instinct, it is a 400-year-old political and economic system that has infected our institutions, our culture and even our thinking. Humans are selfish, and because of our innate selfishness, I'm very confident that we can overcome any amount of environmental destruction. The nuclear family doesn't work. It's very destructive. It grew out of selfishness. Selfishness is that detestable vice which no one will forgive in others, and no one is without himself. Tyranny or slavery, born of selfishness, are the two educational methods of parents, all gradations of tyranny or slavery. Individual versus group selection results in a mix of altruism and selfishness, of virtue and sin, among the members of a society. I write about the power of trying, because I want to be okay with failing. I write about generosity because I battle selfishness. I write about joy because I know sorrow. I write about faith because I almost lost mine, and I know what it is to be broken and in need of redemption. I write about gratitude because I am thankful, for all of it. We all have goals. We want to matter. We want to be important. We want to have freedom and power to pursue our creative work. We want respect from our peers and recognition for our accomplishments. Not out of vanity or selfishness, but of an earnest desire to fulfill our personal potential. Selfishness is one of the qualities apt to inspire love. Law represents the effort of man to organize society, governments, the efforts of selfishness to overthrow liberty. The sin which is indulged to the greatest extent, which separates us from God and produces so many spiritual disorders, and which are contagious, is selfishness. Pity the selfishness of lovers. It is brief, a forlorn hope, it is impossible. One of the most painful things in the Western states and territories is the extinction of childhood. I have never seen any children, only debased imitations of men and women, cankered by greed and selfishness, and asserting and gaining complete independence of their parents at 10 years old. Manifest plainness, embrace simplicity, reduce selfishness, have few desires. Slavery is founded in the selfishness of man's nature, opposition to it is his love of justice. These principles are an eternal antagonism, and when brought into collision so fiercely, as slavery extension brings them, shocks and throes and convulsions must ceaselessly follow. To feel much for others and little for ourselves, to restrain our selfishness and exercise our benevolent affections, constitute the perfection of human nature. I have freedom, but freedom means total selfishness. It means nobody cares much what you do. We need leadership that can elevate religion and morality to their position of paramount importance and thus eliminate growing selfishness, immorality, and materialism. The ruling of men is the effort to direct the individual actions of many persons toward some end. This end theoretically should be the greatest good of all, but no human group has ever reached this ideal because of ignorance and selfishness. Trees bear fruits only to be eaten by others, the fields grow grains, but they are consumed by the world. Cows give milk, but she doesn't drink it herself, that is left to others. Clouds send rain only to quench the parched earth. In such giving, there is little space for selfishness. Selfishness is one of the more common faces of pride. How everything affects me is the center of all that matters: self-conceit, self-pity, worldly self-fulfillment, self-gratification, and self-seeking. Selfishness is the only real atheism, aspiration; unselfishness, the only real religion. Selfishness must always be forgiven, because there is no hope of a cure. Point me out the happy man and I will point you out either egotism, selfishness, evil, or else an absolute ignorance. All sympathy not consistent with acknowledged virtue is but disguised selfishness. Yes, forget your weakness, whatever that weakness may be. It is egotism, it is selfishness after all, for it is a dwelling on self. Forget your weakness, and remember your strength. Your conscience is the measure of the honesty of your selfishness. Listen to it carefully. There is more selfishness and less principle among members of Congress than I had any conception of, before I became President of the U.S. If you wish to travel far and fast, travel light. Take off all your envies, jealousies, unforgiveness, selfishness and fears. Men err from selfishness, women because they are weak. Being sorry is the highest act of selfishness, seeing value only after discarding it. The poison of selfishness destroys the world. Everything I had been taught to regard as a vice, and I still regard them as vices, under Thatcherism was in fact a virtue: greed, selfishness, no care for the weaker, sharp elbows, sharp knees. Socialism proposes no adequate substitute for the motive of enlightened selfishness that today is at the basis of all human labor and effort, enterprise, and new activity. Spiritual men have taken into their heads something that is to be realized. They have concepts of love, goodness, and the like, which they would like to see realized. Therefore they want to set up a kingdom of love on earth, in which no one any longer acts from selfishness, but each one from love. Love is to rule. If selfishness is the key to being miserable, then selflessness must be the key to being happy. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.